you for the invitation. Also, Sweden have a worse climate than Portugal. And we also serve school lunches from decades back. And some schools today also serve breakfast, actually, in the schools. We started to take part in international large-scale assessments already in the 1960s. In the 1990s, Sweden was one of the highest performing countries and with high equality. Here you see the Swedish PISA results, and the results in TIMSS and also later on PEARLS follow the same trends. And from one of the highest performing, in the 1911-12, we hit the bottom, where we also had an average below the OECD average. The result of the international large-scale assessments sparked a debate. So school policy became one of the number one on the political agenda. And we had big reform. New educational act, new curriculum, new grading system, new teaching training, teachers certificate, and head teachers to diversify the salaries and career opportunities. We had new professional development programs for teachers and principals. We had a lot of focus on early evaluation and to follow up the progress of the students. We had national assessment, high stake, in more grades and more subjects. We had special projects like math, both, etc. And what you see is an increase in results, and we see the same development in TIMSS. We can't say what caused this improvement, but what we could say is that it's actually remarkable, because during the same period, for example, the PISA study, the students with the immigrant background raised from 20% to 25% in the study, included in the study. So while we had a huge demographical change, we managed to improve the results or keep them rather stable. And it was hard for the teachers to implement some of the new curriculum. We also saw that teachers were complaining of a quite heavy administrative burden when they had to evaluate and follow up on the pupils and document it. We thought that since the Swedish school kept open during the pandemic, I got the question, that maybe the results should be better than the OECD average. You see the same slope as the OECD development between 2018 and 2022, but we are still above average. I got the question about, but you had the schools open. Yeah, we had, but it was a lot of teachers on sick leave. We had a lot of pupils kept home or sick. So the schools, we kept open, and we probably see an effect of the pandemic. At least what we can say that the Swedish school system were not resilient to the pandemic shock. Our results dropped and equality dropped. But we see that the Swedish student in the PISA study says, I feel the well-being at school was high. So in 1 or 3 we were succeeding. We had like a new PISA shock discussion, and I think there will be a lot of reforms again, because the school issues are again on the debate and on the political agenda. I want to show you the government grants, because in Sweden, since the 1990s, the municipalities are responsible for the funding of schools, but the state subsidies have increased over time. But still in like 2020, it was only like 10% of the funding. So the municipalities are responsible. And what do we see? Yeah, we see some findings on concerning equality. Here you see the development from 2003 until 2022, and I want to highlight especially that the weakest student they is a bigger share, and the results are lower. We see on the other side slightly decline in the highest share, the share of highest achieving student, but it's not that dramatic. But it's very much a dual development. Here you see the results, and we have divided the results on different migrant backgrounds. The upper curve, you see the Swedish background. The lowest green one is foreign-born students with parents with foreign background. And you see the dotted green, that is, you are born in Sweden with foreign background, and you see a gap. But you also see that during the pandemic, the students with Swedish background, they declined. When we check for when the students that are born abroad and their parents have foreign background, when they migrated to Sweden, we see that students that arrived before the 3rd grade, they are performing as well as those born in Sweden. So when they migrated to Sweden is very, very important, how you perform when you're 15. When we controlled for social background, half of the difference we see disappears. So we have a high intersection with socioeconomic background. And what we see here is that the students with high socioeconomic background, they haven't lost many points or scores to the ones writing the test in 2018. And in pearls, we see totally stable. And if your parents are speaking Swedish, you're speaking Swedish at home, they performed as well as 2018. So they were not affected of the pandemic at all. And the PISA student, just a little. But you see that the students in the lowest percentile are performing worse, and the gap is widening. And socioeconomic background is affecting the result, or closely connected to the result in Sweden. And in this way, we have been one of the most equal, and we have moved to be an average OECD country when it's coming to the socioeconomic gap. So the challenges we have is inequality in the Swedish school system, that it has increased, and it's both between pupils, but we also see between schools. So in Pearls, for example, we see that if you have parents of a socioeconomic high background, and you are in a school where the other pupils doesn't have it, you perform worse, and the drop was bigger than students that is in a school with most pupils have a high socioeconomic background. So which school you go to does, your result depends on that more today than a decade ago. The large difference in performance between pupils from different immigrant backgrounds and different socioeconomic backgrounds are large, also if we compare with the OECD average. And we had pedagogical segregation. Qualified teachers are unevenly distributed and particularly affect pupils from lower socioeconomic backgrounds. And if we look to the future, there have been recommendations to Sweden. The pedagogical segregation must be broken. More skilled teachers need to work in schools with less favorable conditions. Even though that we have had a lot of reforms, we have also programs targeting schools with harder climate and less favorable background on the students. But still we have this problem. We have a recommendation for more differentiated and targeted educational interventions, because we see when we evaluate that the state subsidies, some of them you have to apply for, and we don't reach like teachers and schools in small municipalities, in sparsely populated areas. We don't reach these independent schools, these free schools that are publicly funded in Sweden. We reach them to a lower degree. And like the math boost that we really saw good results of, we saw that the weakest student, we didn't reach them with these more general programs. So this is a challenge, and we hope that with more differentiated and targeted education interventions, we could reach those more. And the government needs to take greater financial responsibility to strengthen equity and the long-term development of the schools, because a small municipality in sparsely populated area with an older, aging population have really hard to give the students the same resources as a growing bigger city with a young population and good tax revenue. So it's a big difference in how to fund schools. And here in the discussion, it's much more of state responsibility that is needed. And the debate and reforms now is a lot about equity. As you saw, the gap is widening, and it's not the picture of Sweden that we are used to. Classroom climate. In PISA, we saw that classroom calm have declined a lot, and we also see that students who are the weakest students also are in classrooms with less calm. Digitalization Estonia are really good at digitalization of schools. Sweden too, but there's the debate, has the digitalization gone too far, especially in young ages, in the lower grades? So here I think we will have a lot of discussions and maybe also reforms. And a lot of focusing is on how to strengthen the teaching profession, because we have the teachers with less education and in the less performing schools. We have hard to fill the places at the universities in the teachers program. And we know from the studies that socioeconomic background, it matters. But what matters too is the teacher and how good the teacher are and how much support the teachers get. So strengthening the teaching profession is in focus. At my unit, we are right now working on studies of the relation between the PISA results and the use of digital tools, and that we will publish in June. And we also have a study on the PISA results in relation to classroom and school climate, and it will be published in this fall. We also work with validation studies comparing the framework of the test items with the Swedish curriculum and national assessment, because that's also, does the PISA follow the Swedish curriculum in a good way? And we also have, let's see, I thought I had another one. Oh. Yes. The current study of result of the ILSA studies and national assessment, because, and the grades, because we have a lot of problems also with grade inflation. So this is what we are working on now. So thank you very much for listening, and we hope for better results 2025 PISA.